Hey, what up everybody, this is Stevie Breach coming to you today. I was going to make a video on watching the first episode of WCW Monday Nitro on the WWE Network. I wanted to let you know that this was a really good show. I've put over thoughts about what I like watching on the network and why I think the network is a fine deal for $9.99 a month, and how I like coming home and watching sporadic things. And really there's so many things on the network that it's hard for me to keep in place and what I want to watch. I've been watching a lot of the pay-per-views as they come on. I was going through and sort of refreshing my memory on the Night of Champions. I watched all through those. And when it first came out, I was watching the pay-per-views from WCW in order as the NWO started to run. Of course, I like watching an episode of the WrestleMania Rewind show, and then I like going and watching that actual WrestleMania after I watch it. So, there's a lot of different directions. Just having that one, application on my Apple TV, gives me a lot of things to watch when I get home from work and I'm trying to kill some time before I go to bed. It's not hard for me to find something that I want to watch. It's awfully hard for me to narrow down which direction I want to go in. On Monday, I believe it was during Monday Night Raw, they put up there on the screen that they had added, I believe, the first 2 full years of WCW Nitro. When this show first started, it was only a 1-hour show. I watched this. It was about 45 minutes because the commercials are cut out. And it's a lot like watching the old school Raws that come on the live stream. I believe they come on at around midnight Pacific, and they're really fun to watch those old 1994, 1995 editions of Monday Night Raw. Just seeing the stuff that I used to watch and just really think was the best stuff in the world, and now I watch it and it's just comical to the fact that the things that go on there. Every once in a while they have a good match that I can remember or that I don't remember that blows me away. A big match like IRS versus Shawn Michaels would make me get up out of my chair and go crazy. The one thing that I don't really remember about the start of the WCW and WWF Monday Night Wars was I don't know. It seemed like I was always watching wrestling. I just don't really remember WWF ever really plugging the debut of Monday Night Raw. It just all of a sudden Raw was on Monday nights on USA, and it just became part of my lifestyle was to watch it. I don't remember WCW really plugging Nitro, but then again, WCW is something that I frequently watched. I watched when I would come across it. It wasn't, set in stone at what times I was going to watch, and some people would say, what about the, set in stone 605, Saturday night show that, they would, be the staple of WCW. Well, it's weird because TBS was a live channel that they didn't, do according to time zone. So that show honestly would come on at 3 in the afternoon here, and a lot of times I wasn't home to watch that. And of course, it was the times before DVRs and everything like that. So I don't really remember Nitro really being a set in stone thing for me to watch every week. It wasn't just like, oh, damn, boom. I gotta watch WCW until Nitro came along, so I don't really remember, how they really plugged it, but it was fun being able to go back and watch the first episode of Nitro. I can honestly say that I don't remember watching this live. I think it probably took me a few weeks before I would notice WCW was on Monday nights on TNT, and, go from there. But this was a very fun episode. Of course, everybody knows the beginning match, Jushin Liger versus Brian Pillman. This is probably one of the most famous cruiserweight matches of all time. I don't think I've seen this match. I believe it was on the High Flyers DVD that came out around 2010. So I haven't seen this match in 4 years. And I think I just had such high expectations of how good this match was going to be. I thought that it was a good way to kick off WCW and show the world that basically WCW wasn't going to be what WWF Monday Night Raw was at the time. The WWF rarely had, little guys, and Brian Pillman and Liger aren't really little guys, the way they are, but I mean, WWF was a big man's, thing. You gotta think around 1994, 1995, big guys, Diesel, Mabel, Yokozuna, those were the guys that Vince McMahon looked at, and they were like, yeah, I got to get those guys in the main event. And a lot of times, they would push them to the moon and they really wouldn't work out. And WCW showing you that, like, Liger and Pillman, being in their match, it's only going to be an hour-long show, that these guys matter to see, what's going down in there. It's not that the match is bad. I think that it has high expectations of everything that's going to be in this match, because it's the way that everybody talks about, how it was the first match of Nitro and how it was like one of the best cruiserweight matches of all time. It's like middle of the road for me. Pillman wins with the roll up. After that, we go, because this show is set in the Mall of America, which has so many things that I could talk about. It's got rows of fans in there. I can't really tell how many fans are actually sitting in seats. It looks like 10 rows. Deep, with people watching as they're shopping, on the balconies, are surrounding the sort of courtyard that they're set in. But there's also like people going up and down the escalators who really are looking around at what's going down, at people watching this wrestling show, just wondering what the hell is going on. Mall of America, I think, is I think when this first came out, is during one of the first years of the Mall of America. I don't think it had been around that long. If you don't know, it's a mall in Minnesota, and it's the biggest mall in the United States. I honestly know more about this show from watching the reality show. I believe it was called Mall Cops. I know it's on Netflix. You can go check it out. It was a pretty addicting show about the things that go along with working at the mall, and you get to learn a lot about it. They have an amusement park inside the mall. I believe it's 3 stories high. I believe it's the length of, I want to say it's the length of 4 football fields. It might be 3, but it's just huge. I mean, it's just a ton of stores, a ton of people, and I found it to be a good reality show, watching things that were going on. And I don't know, there's a ton of people in there who don't really know a lot about it. I don't really hear about wrestling going to Minnesota all that much. I don't really think of Minnesota being a real wrestling state, or Minneapolis being a real wrestling city. I know they love their Vikings, and I know they love their Twins, and that's all. I guess they love the Timberwolves too, and that's about all I really know about them. But there was a lot of people in that mall who really looked like they didn't know what the hell was going down. But then again, the people that were there were excited to be there. Hulk Hogan had opened up a store in the food court where basically, they made spaghettis, pastas, rigatonis, things like that. They sort of like a Sbarro's. It doesn't look like they have pizza on the menu, and he's, getting free advertising for this place. It didn't really open or really last that long. I can't find any information on when they closed. I do know that people are still selling the sauce, I guess, that they've, stored for years. Thinking that people might want to buy this. I don't know if people would want to eat it. I don't know why it would be a collector's item, but if you go on eBay, you can find some Hulk Hogan Pasta Mania sauce that's been sitting around since 1994, maybe 1995. But, he plugs the place. He says that he's going to win the match because he's filled up with Pasta Mania, and he's got a matchup against Big Bubba Rogers, who used to be the big boss man, as they go along. After that, we go to our next match of the night, which is for the United States Championship. Sting is defending against Ric Flair. And before this match happens, the guys are in the ring, and they're sort of doing the referee, sort of pat down, and all that, and Lex Luger comes walking out. Everybody knows the story about Luger. His contract had expired. He was working for WWF at the time. It seemed like that Vince McMahon had sort of run out of ideas to do with Lex. He got the big push where he went up against Yokozuna at SummerSlam. Then he won the Rumble with Bret Hart, which led to him going up to WrestleMania 10, involved in the 3-man tournament for the title, where he didn't win, even though it was heavily rumored that he was going to win the championship and be the guy there. Everybody thought he was going to be the next Hulk Hogan, and then you go from there, and Lex Luger turns into a tag team, the Allied Powers, him and the British Bulldog, who don't really have any matches that you really remember. They just had some matches that were out there. Ric Flair and Sting don't even really notice that Luger walks out there and looks around. Bischoff selling the fact that he doesn't work there, get him out of there, trying to make big reference that a WWF guy is on WCW TV. This is much before the outsiders, but I think Bischoff saw the idea that basically thinking if they showed up on our show, it would be huge. It just probably didn't work out that way because they didn't really leave it to mystery, because Luger comes back later on in the show. During this match, I believe this is the match, Sting and Flair were wrestling, and as they wrestle around, I think Arn Anderson, who Ric Flair was feuding with at the time, I think he runs down and everybody gets involved in a fight. The DQs, the match is thrown out. Nothing really spectacular about this match. After the match, Scott Norton comes down and he starts pushing around Eric Bischoff. This is him making his WCW debut. He was a guy that was pretty famous for wrestling in Japan. He would later go on to join the NWO and just sort of be a guy in the background. He was involved in a tag team with Buff Bagwell. They never really did anything with him. I think he had some matches where they put him up against Goldberg where they sort of made him look like he was going to be a big deal, and then once he got ran over by Goldberg, nothing really happened. Macho Man comes running down, sort of even the score with Norton, where basically, he's not going to be pushing around Bischoff. It was pretty funny because once Norton starts getting into not the referees, but the guys on the microphone, the announcer's face, basically Bischoff not Bischoff, but Heenan, he's the boss, he's the one you want, and he just gets the hell out of there. He just, totally just chickens out. From there, after Macho Man evens the score, we have a video hyping up Sabu. He's going to appear on the next episode of Nitro. Then we get to see a vignette from, I guess it's Michael Wall Street, the guy who used to be IRS, trying to make it seem like he's got a big deal, but he's wearing Ted DiBiase's jacket. I mean, honestly, it's a ripoff of Ted DiBiase's jacket. And, he's trying to make it look like a big deal. From there we go to the main event of the night, which would be Hulk Hogan, the champion, going up against Big Bubba Rogers, a.k.a. the Big Boss Man. Normal, typical match. Hogan gets pushed around a little bit. Hogan hulks up. Hogan drops the leg drop. Hogan gets the win. And, after this, Lex Luger runs down again. They get separated by Macho Man, Sting. All the baby faces of the company are in the ring, and Luger drops the promo. Oh, the Dungeon of Doom run out, and they have to fight off the Dungeon of Doom. Luger and Hogan go back to back, and then they look at each other like they were going to fight, and then they sort of pull back. And Luger, has a really good promo. Maybe the delivery wasn't good, but once you step back and you think about what he says, it does sort of make this look like a dream match in some sort of a situation. Basically, Hogan was the WWF guy, while Luger was the WCW guy. Hogan quit wrestling, so Vince brought Luger in to become the new Hogan of the company. While Hogan is, taking his break, he goes to WCW. So it almost looks like these guys are just in different places at the different times, and they're big stars. Luger says, I beat who you've beat who I've beat, but we've never fought each other. We need to see who the better man is. Sting and Savage are pulling them apart, and they're telling us to come back next week and see what happens, and then they give us a commercial plugging the upcoming pay-per-view, which would be Fall Brawl and War Games. So, it was a fun, exciting show. I talked about it for 15 minutes here, and it was only 45 minutes long. One thing that, would be fun to do, since, they've uploaded so many of these Nitros, and they're all in a row on the network, would be just to keep going. Watch episode 2, episode 3. That's going to hype the pay-per-view. Of course, all the WCW pay-per-views are there. So you watch the pay-per-view and you go Nitro, Nitro, Nitro. Lots of jokes were made on Monday Night Raw talking about, how just basically Nitro was better than what was on television that night, and some people were tweeting that they were going to leave and go check it out. But definitely, Nitro was a fun show. I don't think it really reaches its peak until the NWO comes around. There will be definitely a day that drops off around 1998 to 1999. But they were really always throwing the best stuff out there they could. It just they expanded 1 hour, seemed like it wasn't enough, and then they went to 2 hours, and sometimes even 2 hours seemed like it was too much. And then it went to 3, and at the time they were 3, they were also making 2 hours of Thunder. So it just ended up being too much wrestling for them to figure out what to do with everybody and still have good pay-per-views. So I think that was the biggest downfall of WCW, is just they kept increasing how much they were doing. But you gotta make the money while you can. Peace out, everybody. Maybe episode 2 coming soon.